You are listening to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Your host for today is B. Allen Bourgeois.
And welcome to Dear Texas Radio, where we do encourage you to drop everything and read. But please, as people have heard me say, don't break it. We don't want you to do that. But we do want to help you find a good book to read. And so today with me, I have Amy. And Amy, I'm not going to butcher your last name, so if you would be kind enough to say it.
Certainly. It is Rognlie, like the opposite of rightly.
Okay, Amy Rognlie. All righty.
Mm-hmm.
And Amy has written several books. Many of them are Christian-based, spiritually based, but also a lot more than that. For example, we have Miss Opal Makes a Match, set in 1907 Texas. And what I love about the first line that I've read from it is Miss Opal Wilson may be elderly, but she's certainly not ordinary. Please tell me about that. What makes her different?
Yes, well, I got the idea for this book. My husband and I were actually driving home somewhere, and we started brainstorming this book, and I just had this picture in my head of these two elderly sisters who wanted to still make a difference in their life, but they're kind of rascally in a sense, and they feel like that they might be old, but they still have work to do in their own little corner of Texas, and so they set to work doing what they feel called to do to, shall we say, help other people in their lives.
Okay. So help other people in what way? Simple things like giving gifts or baking them something?
Well, this particular book, I'm actually working on the second one right now. This particular book is, so Miss Opal and her sister are in their 80s, and they have a dear young man who's like a son to them, and he is a circuit riding preacher in the area. I really tried to be very historically accurate when writing the Miss Opal books. Recently moved to Central Texas from Denver, 5 years ago. And so I've been learning a lot about this new state that I live in. And so I dug into a lot of the history, and that was one of my aims, was not only to tell an entertaining story, but to also share maybe some of the lesser known facts about Central Texas history. And so anyway, in this fictional tale, these two elderly women love this young preacher as their son, and they are certain that the woman that he is engaged to is not the one for him. And so with a lot of finagling and a lot of prayer, they find him someone who they feel is more suitable, and so they have get involved in a lot of shenanigans to try to arrange this relationship, which does end up working out in the end. And so that's the kind of fun that they have, but they are trying to, out of the goodness of their heart, helping. So it's a very light, humorous book with a lot of accurate historical details in the story as well.
So there's two items I want to touch upon. First off, you mentioned that you and your husband were driving home one day and started creating the story. Does that happen often?
Often I get like just a seed of an idea. Sometimes I get just sort of like one scene in my head, or maybe one character, and then I kind of go from there. I think this time was something that I had kind of kicked around a couple times before, but once we started solidifying it, just really helped me to gain a clear picture of what these two women and their kind of personalities should look like as we talked about it and brainstormed about it together. But I would say that he does help me sometimes if I run up against the plotting issue or something, sometimes I'll run it past him or my son and just say, I'm stuck. Do you guys have any ideas? And actually, I don't usually use their ideas exactly as they come out, but sometimes they will help me sort of springboard off of some of their ideas or go other directions in my plot that I might not have come up with. So it's kind of a family affair sometimes in that sense.
Good. And do they ever tease you that they want to share the royalties?
A little bit, every once in a while.
You also mentioned that you ended up having to learn about Texas, doing the research for the historical aspect. Was that a bigger challenge than you thought it might be?
I don't know that it was a challenge. It was just, it's very entertaining because I love history. I'm a language arts teacher, actually, but I had thought many times that if I wouldn't have done that, then I would maybe have become a history teacher. And so it kind of partly came about naturally just as we moved here almost 5 years ago, and I just I love history, and so I just really naturally wanted to know the history of this area. We moved to Bell County, and there's a lot of really, really interesting people and places and happenings just in this area, and so I thought it would be fun. So I'm still really doing that. I wouldn't say that I've done all that I need to do. It's really a work in progress. I still spend hours at the library or the Bell County Museum, just poring over, documents and photos, and it's really a rewarding part of this to me. And also, I think that my readers have really enjoyed that. I've had people say to me that now as they're driving around a particular town or something, that they'll think of the character Miss Opal, or if they walk into a certain building, that kind of thing. So apparently my readers are really connecting with and enjoying the historical aspects of this book.
And
so
you had
that's
also
been
mentioned
fun
that
for me.
You were working on a secondary book, a follow-up to this, and that's based on the information you learned from the research?
Yes, it is actually. So the first book came out in November, and I am working on the second one. But yes, I did as I did more research and realized more of the history of the area. I decided to really kind of build a story around a couple of those areas. So one in the second book, two of the main historical places that are included in the second book would be T.W. Cochran's department store, which is what it used to be called. This department store is still located in Belton, Texas. It's now called Cochran, Blair, and Potts, but it does have the distinction of being Texas's oldest operating department store. And so the characters are shopping there. But the other thing, fascinating thing that I've learned about Bell County that even a lot of people who live here don't know is that they used to have a poor farm where people who were paupers or perhaps impaired health-wise or mentally in some way were often made really to live at the poor farm. And so I'm just kind of intrigued by that. Read through a lot of the old records, and so trying to incorporate both of those things into this second book has been really educational and kind of fun. So I hope that readers will also enjoy learning about those two areas in the upcoming book.
Great. It sounds like you could almost have a separate book for the poor farm, really go crazy with a lot of story ideas from that.
Yes, I'm seeing how it's going to go, but I agree that there could be a lot of material just from that. pretty fascinating stuff. There were people taken from there occasionally to the Austin mental asylum, and some of those things are actually written in the notes, that kind of thing. So pretty interesting stuff.
Cool. Real quickly, we only have a couple minutes left. I wanted to ask you about Miss Opal again. A lot of authors write about people or use people to create a character. Is this the case with Miss Opal? People you know, and you just kind of mix them together to create this lady, or these two ladies?
I do that, particularly in my mystery series that I believe we're going to speak about after the break. I did that more consciously. I would say in this book that Miss Opal is probably more of a conglomeration of many, should we say, church ladies that I've known over the years. I can't pinpoint any specific one exactly, but I think just growing up in the church and having a lot of experience with that has informed this character greatly. So I had a lot of fun with her. She's kind of character in the true sense of the word.
Great. Well, we're going to step away for a moment for our sponsors. We'll give them some airtime, and we will be right back.
Great. Thank you.
In their 2017 award-winning techno-thriller series, Brakefield and Berkey take you on an engaging journey as cyber good guys duel against cyber assassins using technology, today's weapon of choice. Whether your cyber threat is fighting for your lost identity, struggling with a mutant computer virus, or being outmaneuvered by a digitally enhanced gaming avatar, you will enjoy this book series individually and collectively. EnigmaSeries.com will take you through a doorway into the digital combat of the 21st century.
Dear Texas would like to thank our sponsors. McKinney, Texas has a rich history, one it embraces and loves to share with visitors. Nowhere is this more evident than McKinney's historic downtown with more than 100 eclectic shops and eateries to explore. Situated just 30 miles north of Dallas, McKinney offers the perfect getaway from the urban hustle. For more about McKinney, check out www.visitmckinney.com or call 888-649-8499. The third annual short story contest begins March 1st and runs through July 31st. Enter your short story for a chance at prizes and getting published. To learn more about this annual event, please visit our website at txshorts.com. Dear Texas would like to invite you to the McKinney Square Book Festival on June 3rd, 2017. The event will be held at the Performing Arts Center from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Meet 40-plus Texas authors, many of whom have won awards. Special events will take place during the day, and a special musical guest, Billy Dawson, will perform at 2 p.m. For more information, please visit our website, mckinney.deartexas.info. Wimberley Valley Tourism welcomes people to explore the many fine shops, restaurants, and wineries that make Wimberley special. More at wvtla.com. From concept to casting, recording to post-production, Spoke Media is dedicated to creating a superlative listener experience. www.spokemedia.io. EBG 247, where you can find ebooks galore 24 hours, 7 days a week at ebg247.com. You are listening to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Your host for today is B. Allen Bourgeois.
And welcome back to Dear Texas Radio. We do appreciate you listening, and we do hope that you are learning about some new wonderful books to read, and you take that time to just sit back, relax, enjoy a good book. Let the stresses of the day just melt away. And to help you with that, I have Amy Rognlie with me, and we've been talking about her two books Miss Opal Makes a Match and her new book that's going to be coming out. But we're also going to be talking about some of her other books that she's written over time. And welcome back, Amy.
Thank you.
So you have a wide collection, or I should say a good collection of books that you've written. Logan's Lady, Bartered Bride Romance, Along Unfamiliar Paths, Prairie Brides, and After the Flowers Fade. So there seems to be a theme running through there. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the earlier segment, we had moved to Texas from the Denver area almost 5 years ago. And so being the lover of history that I am, I was very intrigued in Colorado history at that time, and have always grown up loving historical fiction. And so when I wrote my first novel ever, which is the one Along Unfamiliar Paths, I decided to set it right there in the Colorado Rockies. So that first book that I wrote was most of it is set in the Colorado Springs area, but also in the early 1900s. And all of my books up until now have been set in Colorado until the Miss Opal one, the series that I just started this past year. So they are all Christian historical romances, pretty light on the romance part. Hopefully I've always hoped that they would help to give encouragement and maybe a little bit of spiritual guidance to readers, at the same time as delivering a interesting read, I hope. So I've had pretty good success with those. The one included in the Bartered Bride series, or the Prairie Bride series, is a short novella set in Colorado also. And for that particular publisher, was one of their best-selling collections ever. So that's been pretty gratifying to be a part of that.
Okay. I wanted to touch base on the reason for you to start writing. What caused you to want to write?
That's an interesting question. Many people have asked me that. I've always been a reader. It was one of my favorite, probably the most favorite pastime as a child, and even now. And I remember distinctly a time in my life as a young reader, probably 11, 12 years old. I had already read many books by then, and I remember reading some and finally just saying to myself, I could do that. And I just never had any doubt that I couldn't, I guess. I enjoyed reading Nancy Drew mysteries. It was one of my very favorites. But many, many other books. And I guess it just never occurred to me that I couldn't be an author. And so as I got older, I tried my hand at a couple different things, but I never really thought about doing it as a career, I guess. And then when our oldest son was about a year old, my dad passed his computer on to me. This was quite a while ago, so not everybody had PCs at that time. And he got a new one, passed his big old clunky computer on to me, and I thought, okay, I guess it's time to write my book. So that's when I started, when my boys were little. And I submitted that first manuscript to a publisher. And that was back in the day when you submitted everything by paper and snail mail, of course. So it was this big, thick manuscript in an envelope. And I waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. And I waited for more than a year before I heard anything from them. And one day, there came the big old manuscript back with some revisions and a letter saying that they had accepted it. And so that was my beginning. It was a pretty exciting day.
I can imagine, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. and you've been going ever since. And the aspect of writing there in Colorado, of course, you were living there and stuff, which was a lot easier. But the aspect of historical fiction and the Christian being added in, was one more important to you than the other?
I would say that, for me, the central or the Christian message would be central. It would be a little difficult for me to write without that, because it's my Christian, it's my worldview, and it just comes out in every aspect of my life. So not that I couldn't, but I think that was really important to me. Not that I'm trying to proselytize or anything like that through my books, but I'm trying to offer encouragement and hope, and show that we all go through very difficult times, but we can still have hope, and that God is ultimately sovereign, in control of our lives. And I like to have characters who are not sugary or fake, but who really go through difficult things in life, like we all do. So I like to portray that kind of character, going through the struggles of life, but then ultimately having some hope. So, it's been quite a journey.
And the titles you've written about definitely were set back in the historical aspect, dealing with a lot of issues. The Prairie Bride, for example, or the Bartered Bride romance collection. And these are subject matters that actually did happen and were not very challenging during that time. I'm sure it was quite a challenge to write those.
It was, I've always wanted to be historically gratifying. I just love knowing the history, and I've always sort of imagined what that would be like to live back in those days. So it's been, it's been a real journey. So
we only have a few minutes left, and I want to get people to know where they can find your books.
Yes, my books are, of course, available on Amazon, either hard copies or ebooks. I do have my books locally in downtown Belton and at McWaw Bookstore, and I also have them at a few at the Bookseller in Temple, Texas. And I also have a website. You can just go. It's www.amyrognlie.com. You can find me on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, all those places.
If you would kindly just spell out your website, because people may misunderstand Rognlie, and we don't want them going to the wrong site.
Right. It's www.amy, the last name is spelled ROGNLIE.com.
Okay.
And I do have a new cozy mystery series coming out. The first book will be published in November, and that is all. Those are contemporary, so I'm making a switch from my historical here. But those are contemporary, also set here in Bell County in Central Texas.
And for aspiring authors wanting to get the books published or anything of that nature, do you have any words of encouragement or advice?
Sure. I would say don't give up on your dream, for one thing. If that's a dream of yours, is to write a novel or any kind of writing, to just don't give up on that. But the other piece of it is be willing to study the craft and learn what it takes to be a publishable writer. These days with Amazon and all the others, anybody can publish anything. That doesn't mean that it's good or anybody wants to read it. So you need to be willing to take the time to learn how to be a good writer. And that does take time and practice, and it's an ongoing process. I still go to conferences and take classes and read books, striving to be a better writer every day. So I think that that's super important. And get your work edited. Everybody needs an editor. No matter how good you get, you need that other set of eyes on your work. So those would be my main pieces of advice.
Great. And we look forward to seeing the Cozy Mysteries coming out, and also your follow-up to Miss Opal. That's due out in a couple months, you said?
Yes, I'm hoping that the next Miss Opal will be out by either the end of May or by mid-June at the latest. So very excited about that. That will be available on Amazon or through the bookstores here locally.
And, of course, at your website, AMYROG.
For all inquiries regarding voiceover, narration, and announcing services as heard on this program, please make contact through voxluxstudio@gmail.com, voxluxstudio@gmail, or you can call 512-537-6077. Thank you for listening and for your support. Thank you for listening to Dear Texas Radio. To learn more about Dear Texas and its literacy programs, please visit their website at deartexas.info. I am Alex Anthony, your announcer. Have a great day.